Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Mountaineer Postgame Show presented by West Virginia on SI. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That is my co-host, legendary West Virginia running back Eugene Napoleon. The Mountaineers fall to the Memphis Tigers in the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl, 42-37. A ton of excitement, a ton of offense in this game. Not a whole lot of defense, but it was a wild finish. It seemed like West Virginia just kind of never could really get enough going defensively to kind of keep them really within reach, even though they were within reach. It just felt like it was a more of a point differential than it really was on the scoreboard. But anyways, let's go and take a look here at the final numbers from this game. Garrett Green, in his final game as a Mountaineer, goes 29 of 40 for 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, and obviously that interception at the end to seal it. He also rushes for 95 yards and a touchdown. How about the game that Hudson Clement had 166 yards and 2 touchdowns on 11 carries? And Seth Hennigan, the 4-year starter at Memphis, he closes out his legendary career there, going 18 for 26 for 294 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gene, initial thoughts on the Frisco Bowl loss?
Listen, they fought. They fought. I tell you, the offense played. When they came back out in the second half, they really balled out. They played well. Unfortunately, the defense had no answers. You just couldn't stop them. I'm gonna tell you, Hudson Clement, man, is a baller. He's a playmaker. He's a baller. I'm really happy that Garrett Green had a chance to go out the way he went out tonight. Threw the ball well. Outside of that last pick, he's trying to make a play. I get it, but he threw the ball well. He did exactly what I would expect GG to do in his last game.
Yeah.
I thought CJ ran the ball well. It's just unfortunate. You know what? When you have all of the things that has happened over the last few weeks to get to this point in the game, you already know there's going to be some ups and downs. You should expect that.
A lot of distractions.
A lot of distractions, some ups and downs. But to see how the offense answered, I'm going to tell you, I was very, very impressed with how they answered. Wasn't too impressed with how we played on D, but I was very impressed with how the offense answered.
Absolutely. Hats off to Chad Scott in his first game calling the plays. It kind of took a little while for things to get going. And really, you got to credit not only the coaching staff, but the players too. When they fell behind 17-0, that thing could have snowballed out of control. It could have got really ugly. And hats off to them. They never gave in, they never mailed it in. And you never really felt like that was the DNA of this team, despite all the struggles that they've been through. It just didn't work out for them this year. Things just didn't go their way, 7 times, but it just happened to be that way. I think for Garrett, like you said, he was trying to make a play, and really, I mean, the fumble should have never happened because as soon as the kid picked it off, he should have just fell down. There's no point in returning it. So West Virginia almost caught a break there by him just making the mistake of returning it. But when West Virginia got the ball back there at the end, the defense finally got a stop. They forced a long field goal attempt. I honestly started, typing up my game recap thoughts a little bit differently because I was like, oh, I've seen this story a time or two with Garrett Green. The Baylor game, I can't remember all the games off the top of my head right now, but there's been a couple of games where he's won and ushered a game-winning drive at the end. And I thought that was going to be the case there. Just came up a little bit short, but defensively, like you said, they just never really found anything. You had some guys enter the transfer portal that hurt your depth a little bit, but
Sure.
at the end of the day, this is a really good offense that you're facing in Memphis, like we talked about in the game day show. And it was kind of a pick your poison. They kind of did a decent job against Mario Anderson, the run game, passing game gave up a lot of explosive plays.
And that's the key. When you do that, it doesn't matter what you're doing in the run game. If you give up explosive plays in the pass game, you can mail it in. So a few things for me, pointer wise, Rich Rod was at the game, obviously, and I'm sure he has to be somewhat impressed with how the offense fought back. A few of those players, man, you talk about a hard edge, Hudson Clement.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you wrote down Hudson Clement's name probably a couple times on that sheet of paper he had.
I'm sure. The thing is, again, in a game like this where You're down 17 nothing. Like you said, Schuyler, a lot of teams would have mailed it in. Well, you know what? Whatever. We don't know what our future looks like here. Whatever. We got a new coach coming in. He's going to have a new staff. They fought back, which showed me a lot of character. And it showed me something about the players on this team. And I was very proud of them. I'm not into moral victories, but I'll tell you what, this will be as close to one that I'll give them because of all the distractions and because of the circumstances. They fought back, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and again with Chad Scott, I mean, he had never called plays during his tenure at West Virginia. He had never been a head coach before, and he's dealing with all of this stuff. He didn't even field any offers from any other schools at this moment because he was worried about getting these guys ready for this game. And that's a ton of respect to him for that. And I think too, he's probably made a case to at least be one of those guys that maybe Rich Rod considers keeping on this staff because he's an elite recruiter. He's an elite developer of talent. I mean, for goodness sake, Gene, he turned a tight end and CJ Donaldson into a running back. He never played running back in his entire life. And look what CJ's done in his career. Jaheim White was a freshman phenom. I think he's got a chance there to maybe be a part of this staff moving forward. What do you think about Chad Scott?
No, I listen, absolutely. Very impressed with Chad Scott. I mean, and again, you can tell he has a very high football IQ, obviously, but you can also tell, more importantly, the things that you just hit on. He's an elite recruiter. He definitely understands how to develop talent, and he understands. I'm looking at him as a guy that really rolls out patience when he's working with his players. You can tell that they love him, and you
Yeah.
can tell that he plays. So when you have all those qualities in a coach, no doubt about it, he's definitely made a case for himself to be part of this offensive staff for sure.
Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to touch on, we've already kind of briefly mentioned it, but Garrett Green, hats off to him as well for a tremendous career. Obviously, and I put this in my initial thoughts too. He's not going to go down statistically as one of the best quarterbacks to ever play at West Virginia, but he should always be remembered for his toughness and his grit, and for the amount of pride that he had in putting on that West Virginia jersey, putting that flying W on his helmet. That kid is just embodies what it means to be a Mountaineer. And as I've said on here too, like it's a shame you didn't get to see or witness or experience Garrett Green in a Rich Rodriguez offense because it feels like he would have been the perfect quarterback for what Rich Rod wants to do.
What was that? That was a 56-yard burst for a
Yeah.
touchdown. So I know Rich was probably thinking, is there any way we can get him back for a
Yeah.
year? You know what I mean?
I mean, come on now. Cam Rising had 10 years, right? At Utah.
At least.
I mean,
He's
at
still
least one more year.
he's still playing, isn't he?
Yeah, he could technically come back for one more, but I think he's denying it.
So I think that, to your point, he may not go down as statistically one of the greatest quarterbacks ever played it, but I'm gonna tell you, his heart is bigger than New York City, number one. Number two, that's what a Mountaineer is all about. Never say die, never give up, never quit. I'm going to play. I don't care if there's 5 seconds left on the clock. If the ball's in my hand, I'm going to make something happen.
Yeah.
And that is the mark of a true Mountaineer. So I listen. I respected him before when he first committed to West Virginia. I respect him even more now. And as far as I'm concerned, for me personally, he's one of he will always have a special place in my heart as a true Mountaineer. So hats
Yeah.
off to GT, man. Job well done.
Absolutely. And that is going to do it for the post game show tonight. That's it for us on the season. We thank you so much for tuning in to every week on the Walkthrough Game Day show, for every post game show, for their Between the Ears episodes throughout the week as well. We are going to keep Between the Ears going through the end of basketball season every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We'll have Gene on sparingly throughout the offseason as well to get some of his thoughts on all the makings and happenings of the football team as they continue to go through this new change in a new era, bringing back Rich Rodriguez as the head coach. So once again, the final score from the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl: Memphis 42, West Virginia 37. And thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Give us a follow on X at SI_WVU. And for Eugene, Napoleon, I'm Schuyler Callihan. One last time this season here on the Mountaineer Postgame Show.